meeting of the West Neck Water District. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see people in the audience. We don't usually have the opportunity to see live bodies. We just see Zoom attendees. So the agenda for today is the minutes. We can push this back to the end of the meeting so we can proceed because I don't want to hold Joe Picorni up any longer. So,
I so move.
okay.
Second.
Okay, so we'll take that to the end of the meeting. The financial report, you will see in your package that currently, Joe, we're going to be with you momentarily. Currently in our Chase account, we have $30,000, $33,053.58. That's what we have in our checking, which is a lot of money to hold in checking. Usually I like to keep a certain amount and move most of it into the class account so we can get the interest. So is it the desire of the board to move, let's say, 25,000 into the class account and keep 5,000 on hand?
And there's no immediate anticipation of having to spend a big chunk of that. I'm
There is
assuming.
not, no. If you look at the withdrawals, for August, we had a total of $66. And then we will have a clerk withdrawal, but that's still, that $5,000 will still cover it. Is that
Yeah.
something? Yes?
Yeah.
Peter, are you in agreement with that?
I so move.
All right, so we'll keep 5,000 in our checking account and move the rest to class account. If you look at the class account right now, it's a very healthy balance, and that would be,
I was just looking at the checking account.
okay,
The Suffolk County Water Authority check has not cleared. So it was issued, so that's why there's 30,000 in the account.
Okay.
Once it clears, the balance will be 2,800.
so it's a big difference.
Yes, so you may not want to make that.
We don't want to make that move.
But a good one.
Yes.
All right, so let's just, the balance would then be 2,800?
Mhm.
Can you tell us what the actual amount was of that check from
Yes.
to Squaw?
$27,225.94.
27,295. All right, so we should then hold until that is cleared. And that was issued in June, correct?
And then there's nothing to transfer, really. Right?
Well, that leaves us a balance of, $2,000.
Right, exactly.
So we can not transfer anything. We'll scratch that. Even though that's a very healthy sum to keep in the account. All right, thanks, Amber. So in the class account, which is the interest-bearing account that we have through the town, we currently have $136,976.92. That's our balance. For those of you who are familiar with the process, that balance is there to meet the obligation annually for the Suffolk County Water Authority bond, or their, what do you call it, the bill that we have them for the infrastructure. So surcharge, thank you, Joe. So this is very healthy balance, and we hope that, we initially thought that our class account would go 3 years, and then we'd have to start getting creative about how to pay them back. But it looks like we want to be able to go a little bit longer and hold on to that money.
Maybe just remind us, what do we pay each year then?
This year, we paid 27,000, that outstanding balance, that's, or
Oh,
$27,295. That's what we had to pay SQA this year for the surcharge. And we anticipate a 2% increase, as that it's in their contract, if you will, that they will increased their rates by 2%. So I don't know if that how much that actually puts the surcharge up. But we'll ask Joe about that. Okay, any questions?
No,
No?
not yet.
Okay, so that's our financial status, and it's pretty much where we hoped we would be. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Joe Picorni, who's the Chief Executive
Could I just
Auditor.
ask a quick question about that, though? But it's not too much money so that we are overcharging or anything like that. We kind of need to keep that there because this charge is ongoing, correct?
This,
This 136,
we're going to keep that in the class account.
because we need it there as we move forward.
We do,
Right.
yes,
It's not like it's extra money that we're just sitting on.
absolutely
That
not.
was my own.
We have factored that into the surcharge over time. So it's not a surplus at all.
Good, that's just clarification.
Peter, you have any questions? Okay, Joe, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Good to see you as well. We're going to start out with the question about, and a lot of the public has this question, what's been going on Goat Hill with the well since February?
Sure.
So perhaps you can tell us what the status is of wells number, I believe, 6 and 7, or 5A and 6A. I'm not sure what the
Yeah,
labels.
They're 5A and 6A. So the A refers to a replacement well. The original wells were numbered 5 and 6. So these two new wells are replacement wells and they are designated 5A and 6A.
Okay.
So I know we got off to a little bit of a slow start in drilling those wells. You know, we have one contractor that does that work and he has other jobs. So it took a little while to get this project woven into the schedule. But anyway, the good news is that he drilled the wells, completed the wells. We fully tested the wells after he was done. We blew them to waste for quite a while till the water quality is stabilized. We've sampled them for all of the constituents that we do sampling for, which is, I think it's somewhere in the area of 400 constituents. The water quality on both of them looks excellent. I know that PFCs are something that are on everybody's mind. So well number 6 looks like it has some low level PFCs in it, about a little less than half the drinking water standard, which is 10
Do you
parts
wanna-
per billion.
You-
10 parts.
You're
Yeah, go
talking
ahead.
about fluorocarbons, right?
Say that again?
When you say PFC, you're talking about fluorocarbons.
Yes, I'm talking about perfluorinated compounds, yes.
Okay, so
PFOS, PFOS, and then there are another dozen or so related compounds that are in that family.
okay,
And, that has been all of the, you probably remember New York State came up with a new drinking water standard of 10 parts per trillion for those compounds about 2 or 3 years ago. And we have been working throughout our system, for the past that amount of time, putting filtration on any well that is exceeding half the standards. So, like I said, number 6 is below half the standard, which is good. We'll keep a close eye on that as time goes on. Well number 5 is negative. So it looks like, you move over 20 or 30 feet where the second well is, and the water quality is a little bit different, and it doesn't have PFCs in it. And why that is, I wish I could tell you, but it's just, what's in the aquifer in that particular location. And at these levels, at parts per trillion, it's very easy to find a detection of this compound. So, like I said, we will keep a close eye on it. The good news is that it's less than half the standard. So it's well below the drinking water standard. And, we just do watchful waiting, or waiting, whatever you would say, watching of the water quality.
since the EPA has recommended a new standard of 4 parts per trillion, we are above that now. And I know we have till 2027 to comply with that threshold.
Yeah.
Will you be complying at 2027, or will we be addressing it sooner than that?
We'll address it sooner than that. It's just that we have a whole list of wells that we're going through right now that we will be retrofitting treatment on throughout the whole system. But at no time will you receive water that violates the standard once the standard goes into full force. So the answer is there will probably be treatment on that well at some point, in the near future. But at the moment right now, I have, obviously we've got 600 wells in the system. So we go through them and we prioritize the ones that are going to violate the standard first, and we address those.
Okay. Interestingly enough, well number 6 in 2019 had a 6 points per trillion reading. However, it was a different location, was it not?
It was a little bit different. I mean, they're relatively close to where the original wells were. But yes, and you may remember, there was some back and forth discussion about whether that was something that was in the aquifer or whether it was in the Teflon tape that was used to build the sample tap. I guess it's clear now that we've drilled another well and we've got it, that it was probably something that was in the aquifer and not necessarily related to the sample tap and the tape associated with the construction.
That's unfortunate.
It is. The thing is with this compound, they're so ubiquitous. And again, at these low levels of parts per trillion, we've got a lot of wells that have contamination or show signs of these particular contaminants. So
can I ask you a question? And if you could just ballpark?
Yeah.
What percentage of the wells that Suffolk County manages has PFAS at this level? I'm just thinking holistically about the system wide.
At that level or higher, you mean?
Yeah.
I hate to guess because I'd be guessing, but just from my experience and looking at all the sample data, you're probably looking at probably half the wells or so. There are quite a few. And like I said, these compounds are ubiquitous. They're in so many products that we purchase today. Even today, they're still being used. They're not going away anytime soon. And like I said, with the testing levels that we can get down to, we can see it. We can see it down to 2 parts per trillion. And we're getting into a problematic spot here because I know you mentioned the EPA and the 4-part standard, but they proposed that standard and then they were sued by the American Water Works Association and the Association of Metropolitan Water Associations because they really didn't do their homework when it came time to the justification for this low standard. So that number is still kind of up in the air and it hasn't been made final by the EPA yet. I think there's still more to be said for this. They dramatically underestimated the cost of the treatment nationwide to address these compounds. And that goes, when they're making a rule like that, the cost is a factor that is taken into account. So I think right now they're back at the drawing board trying to figure out what the standard is going to be.
So it conceivably could be higher.
It's conceivably it could be higher, it could remain the same. I never know what they're going to do. All I know is right now the standard is 10 parts per trillion, and that's the New York State standard.
Okay. Any questions? Joe, what are we pumping? What is the capacity of the wells now?
Okay, so that's a great question. So as you know, the whole purpose for doing this was to increase the capacity of the system. The existing wells 5 and 6 both had 25-gallon-a-minute pumps in them. And well number 4 across the street also has a 25-gallon-a-minute pump in it. So together, the 3 wells were rated for 75 gallons a minute.
I thought the new wells we were gonna increase the capacity.
I'm talking about the existing wells.
Oh, okay.
So the existing capacity of the system was technically 75 gallons a minute because you had 3 wells rated for 25 each. But, and I say but, because across the street on the golf course, you were limited to only being able to run 1 well at a time because of the electric service limitations. So you literally had to go down there and throw a switch. Do I want to run number 5 or do I want to run number 6? At any given time, you could only run one. So really, the effective capacity of the system was only 50 gallons a minute because you could really only run 2 wells. It was
Right.
either 5 or 6 and 4 across the street. Now, fast forward to today, or maybe a month or two from now, when the new wells go into service, the 2 wells that are on Goat Hill, the new wells, they each have 90-gallon-a-minute well pumps in them. Okay. And they're being wired in a way that they can run all together simultaneously, together with number 4 across the street. So the new capacity of the system and the real capacity of the system when this is all done is 90 plus 90 plus 40, which is 220 gallons a minute. So you're going from a system that has 50 gallon a minute capacity to a system that has 220 gallon a minute capacity. So
Or can
that is a vast improvement.
What'd you say?
Just, pump number, well, number 4 can do 40 gallons,
25.
25.
Oh, yes, my math is wrong. I'm sorry. It should be 180 plus 25. Yes, 205, right?
So Joe, this, was it only because of the switch, the electric, just to confirm, 5 and 6 couldn't run together because of the electric capacity? So
The
now what
electric
you're,
service was too small. The electric service could not power both of them.
so it had nothing to do with drawdown.
No,
So you're comfortable saying that now 5 and 6 can now run at full capacity of 90 gallons per minute, even though their proximity is close and the drawdown won't be overtaxing, it won't overtax the aquifer or the system?
well,
Or-
but I mean, that's what our hydrogeologists tell us. That's what the well tests that we did after we constructed the wells tell us. You know, if we were in the middle of a drought summer when it hasn't rained in, 2 or 3 months, we may be in a situation where we have to call for mandatory water conservation or something like that because we had a problem. But right now, I think that it looks pretty good. And like I said, the well tests that we've done at the current time in the current aquifer conditions tell us we can run them both simultaneously. You know, what's going to probably happen? I mean, remember, these wells never run flat out. They don't run continuously. You get into a peak period, that peak early morning period when everybody's getting up and showering and using water and maybe irrigating. At that time, both pumps may run simultaneously. But just remember that one well alone is 90 gallons a minute. You never had 90 gallons a minute out of the old system completely, right? You had 50 at the most. So with one of those wells in service, you got twice the capacity of the old system. So I don't think we're going to see 2 wells running simultaneously for a long time in this system.
Well, the season is virtually over. You've got our
Well,
biggest,
forget this year. This year is said and done. I'm talking about going forward and into the future. Unless we took on a lot of new customers in some way, shape, or form, I don't see that happening.
okay, just to go back, we actually had more rainfall this year than in previous years, so we're not really in a drought situation.
No,
We're in a,
no.
we're in a nice, healthy water.
This was a what would I call this year? A slightly maybe wetter than normal year. More close to average year than anything. And when I say, with it's so subjective, how demand works on any given year and any given summer. But when you get these regular rain events that occur every 3 or 4 days, like we did this year, the system is much less taxed than it is when you go through these 2-week periods where there's no rain and it's hot and humid. That just didn't happen this year. We always got relief. And even in the larger Suffolk County Water Authority system, we did not see the high levels of pumpage that we had not last year. Last year was very much like this year too. But the year before, we had some significant pumpage.
When do you anticipate these wells being fully online and serving the district?
Okay.
And
So
what are
where
we
we
waiting?
are right now is, I'm sorry?
And the tag is,
I
what
lost
are
you.
we waiting for?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost you. I didn't hear what you had to say just there, what your question was, but it sounded like when will the wells be ready for service?
And what are we waiting for? Yes,
Okay. All right. So currently the wells are complete. The pumps have been installed. Our pipeline crews have piped up the wells, so all the mechanical work associated with the wells is done. The electrician is there. He should be there today, and he will be there most of next week. And he should be finished by the end of next week with the electric work. And I should say with the rough electric work. All right. The problem that we have right now is that we've converted over to a 480 volt service. We have a 480 volt generator on order that should be arriving sometime in November. That is going to provide backup power to this. So right now we need to stay on the old wells because the backup generator that we have is a 208 volt generator. And it is really, it cannot be used with the new wells. So we have to stay in place until the generator is available for the, for the 480 volt wells, which are the new wells. And that generator and the automatic transfer switch, we're hoping is all going to be available in November.
okay.
So I can't, I can take the electrical work as far as I can at this point, and that's what the electrician is doing. But until the generator is available and in our hands and installed, we can't go forward with the complete commissioning of the wells simply because we won't have a backup. And we need to have a backup generator so that people have water all the time. So we're going to
Okay.
stay on the old wells until we have the new generator in place.
How has the pressure been? I mean, from a consumer's perspective, it's been good. There's been days.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure charts look great. We keep a close eye on that. We see early morning demand every morning in the 3 o'clock area, and I sense that that's the Leon restaurant that is filling their tanks because that's the way their system was built over there. But other than that, the pressure cycles look good. I don't think we've gotten any complaints from anybody this year for low pressure. So that's good. I have not heard of anything. This has been a very, very quiet summer with respect to any kind of concerns from customers.
You had one day, right? Didn't you? Of low pressure?
It was me.
No?
No, we did. Actually, it was a while ago, but it fixed itself.
Right,
Right,
Correct.
that
I
was a
think-
while ago. Yep, I think we addressed that, right? Yep.
Did you?
We had brief, but more interestingly, we've had intermittent, beautiful brown water. Has that,
Yeah, I have too.
you have as well? So the brown water, which seems to be correlated to increased activity or
Well, that's
main.
interesting, Bob. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware that you were having a brown water issue. The number 4 well, the second well that comes on, the one that's across the street, that well has slightly higher levels of magnesium than the 2 wells across, not magnesium, manganese, than the wells across the street at the golf course. And that well runs secondary to one of the wells on the golf course. So when demand picks up and we need more than 25 gallons a minute, the well across the street comes on. So that could be the explanation. It doesn't come on that often. We don't need both wells typically, but during the peak, the second well will come on. So that may be where the discolored water is coming from, Bob.
How often would you say it happens?
Well, as I say, it's intermittent. It doesn't necessarily last all that long, but the fact that there's no consistency and no warning It means that, I haven't washed myself in 2 months.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Well, you
Well, that's
smell
why you're
pretty
on
good.
Zoom, you don't care.
That's a good thing I'm on Zoom, yeah.
What is the reason? I mean, I don't really understand what you're saying. I mean,
So-
as I said, it's usually been because they've been working nearby.
Yeah,
Main
yeah.
is open or
I
there's
mean, is it
repairs.
daily, Bob?
Pardon?
Daily.
Is it
Is
every
it daily?
day?
No, as I said, it's inconsistent and intermediate. Could be any time of the day, and it could be fine for a couple of days.
Uh-huh.
Would you say, if you were to give it a rating, would you say it's twice a month?
Oh,
More
no, it's much more than that. I'd say it's 4 or 5 times a month, at least.
and once a week?
Well, that would be 4 or 5 times a month. But as I said, it doesn't necessarily last a long time.
Yeah,
So it doesn't seem as if, some great earth moving
sure.
is being perpetrated.
Is it throughout your house?
Pardon?
Throughout your house?
Oh, once I see the bathtub, I'd be allowed. I don't go around and check.
I just wondered, because
No,
my
it's
concern is-
basically the
yeah,
bathtub.
that's me too. That's where I'm
Yeah,
noticing
which-
it. I
which,
wasn't
you know,
sure if it was my pipes or a systemic issue.
Which also could be that pipes that are used more frequently maybe clean out.
Mhm.
What does that tell you?
It's possible. I mean, so are other people at the table saying that they have the same issue?
I do not. Do you,
I
Peter?
don't know how brown is brown.
You notice it.
I would
It's
notice- No,
noticeable.
we haven't noticed it at all.
Lori, have you noticed brown
Say-
water?
No, but I'm not out during the day, so.
Yeah, and we don't take baths, we just take showers, so. We haven't
Easier
seen
to
it
hide
at
in
all.
shadow than showers. Well, this could just be an idiosyncratic issue on my part, but it's my bathtub and it is very brown, but it's in the evening. But I don't run it other times of day. I could try as an experiment to see. I might do that.
Yeah, more likely in the evening, I would say that.
Yeah.
You know.
But it doesn't sound like a pipe scouring
No.
incident.
Listen, there's one possibility. I mean, the question we always ask when someone has a discolored water issue, is it your cold water? Is it your hot water? Do we know the difference? Do we know whether it occurs with just hot water or cold water?
Certainly be the hot water. That's what I turn on
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
So you
That's
know
because-
what, Bob? You know what I would guess?
We're narrowing it down.
Yeah,
It's evening,
Yeah.
it's intermittent, inconsistent, it's hot water, and it's I'd say a pleasant brown. I mean, it's not dark brown.
right. Well, you know what, Bob? Okay, so based on what you're telling me and based on the fact that not everybody's experiencing it, it sounds to me like it's possible that you have what I would call legacy sediment in your hot water heater. We
Yeah.
did go through some periods there when we were getting started here, and probably even before the water authority arrived, where you had some brown water situations. You remember when we flushed out the system, you got some real heavy brown water. And if that got into your hot water heater, it's basically staying in your hot water heater. And down at the bottom, all that sediment accumulates. And then when you run your hot water, very often it kicks up the sediment and you wind up seeing it. My recommendation would be you can do it yourself. It's not difficult to do. You go to your hot water heater with a 5-gallon bucket. You go down to the bottom of that. There's a valve, a ball valve that you open up. It's like a boiler drain valve, like an outdoor nozzle. And you let that rip. And that's going to drain a lot of the water out of the bottom of the hot water heater. And you should see quite a bit of sediment and brown come out of there. If you do, I suspect that's going to clear up the problem.
Uh,
So I would give that a try. Be
Well,
very
that's good
careful when you do that.
Yeah.
Be
And Tom can
careful.
Okay.
I just want to caution you. Some people don't want to do that on their own. They're concerned they may damage something. There's on an old hot water heater, there's always the possibility that when you open the valve, something will be wrong with the valve. You won't be able to close it again. So it's not without risk, but in my case, I feel like it's a relatively low risk if you have a hot water heater that's in relatively good shape.
And a drain in your basement.
Right, and a drain in your basement, yeah, exactly. So if you want to take a look at that, Bob, and see if that solves it, and let me know. Yeah, again, if my first thought is that the well number 4 has slightly higher levels of metals, iron and manganese, and that might be the source of it. But like I said, it doesn't run that often. And then when the new wells go into service, 5A and 6A are going to run much more frequently than 4 at all. 4 is going to kind of sit there as a backup well because they're 90 gallons a minute. So it's going to be very rare that number 4 is probably even going to be called to run. So the water
Joe,
quality is going to get better.
is there filtration that can go before it leaves the pump house? If on well number 4, is there any kind of filtration?
You know what? It's not high enough to put an iron and manganese removal system on. It really does not, it doesn't merit that. And again, if what I'm thinking the problem is Bob's hot water heater as opposed to the water coming out of the pump station, it's not necessary.
I suppose one way to test it would be to fill it up with cold water and see if it's at all brown. Because then
yeah. Please, I'd like to know more about it. So if you want to do a little experiment there and take a look, see whether it's cold or hot, and let me know. You guys have my email address. You can just let me know, and I'll walk you through it, or I'll have somebody come out there and look closer at it for you.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, and I think keeping a diary of it, like putting it on your calendar book. No,
Yeah, that's a
seriously.
good idea. That's a very good idea.
That way they can correlate between, okay, that leads, is there any other questions? Anybody have any questions? No? Any questions from the audience regarding Jan? Pertinent to this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So I just have a question for Joe. Jan Sulo is my name. I was just looking at the water quality reports on your website.
Okay.
And I noticed like West Neck Water District has elevated nitrates ranging from 2.46 to 646 milligrams per liter,
Okay.
which is below the standard, which is 10.
Sure.
But is there any concern to Suffolk County Water Authority? Are you planning any treatment of this, or as long as it's below 10, it's fine, it's drinkable?
Well, the drinking water standard is 10, yes, and the numbers are 6. We've got wells, obviously we've got a lot of wells in our system, and we have wells with nitrates that are probably as low as 1 or 2 to as high as 9 or 9.5, depending on the location in Suffolk County. Wells with nitrates in the 6 area, those are pretty good numbers as far as our whole fleet of wells go. We keep a very close eye on that. The question is, what's the trend? Are they trending up or are they trending down? So I think they've been fairly stable at this point in the West Neck system. And I don't have the water quality data handy on the new wells, but I think I remember seeing that the new wells were somewhere in the same area. I think they were in like the 4 to 6 range. So I think that those are relatively good numbers for drinking water wells on Long Island.
Yeah, that's right, because I've pulled out a few other reports just on other systems.
Yeah, you can see them in all of our other wells in district.
So from your website, I've seen like, for example, Greenport, ranging from 0.68 to 8.25. North Haven, same thing. So it seems like.
Yeah,
Like
I live in Northport, and in Northport, we have some of the highest nitrate water in the county. We're, most of our wells are in the 7, 8, and 9 range.
Can I ask a question, tagging on what Jan is saying? Here, the WAC looked at a recent testing results, and between 5 and 10 milligrams per liter is what, and I'm not sure where the term came from, if it came from the county, it's in the actionable level or actionable range. Can you describe what that means to Suffolk County Water Authority? What that actionable range means? Does it mean anything?
Honestly, I don't know what that term means. Like I said, we would take it. So, what would action be if you were to do something about a well with nitrates in it? If you had a well with nitrates in it, you would do one of two things. You would either blend it with a neighboring well that had lower nitrates so that the blended effluent was lower than the drinking water standard, or you could put treatment on it. And nitrate treatment is very expensive, as you folks know. So you would look for all kinds of alternatives. I would look for other alternatives before I put treatment on it. And that might be drilling another well in a different location that has better quality water.
Okay, so you're not familiar with that range.
I'm
That
not sure
doesn't,
what the action, I'm not sure what actionable means in this particular case.
okay, I'll verify where that came from,
Sure.
Okay,
unless you know, Jan.
no, I have no idea that this, I know what you're referring to, this actionable thing was on this list provided by a company that tested the 156 wells in the center. And they classified,
Yes.
six wells failed, 10 milligrams per liter, and there were, I don't know, 60 wells that were between 5 and 10.
Yep.
They classified them actionable, but nobody ever explained what actionable
Well,
means.
I think it might come from Suffolk County Health Department, but I'll check.
I think it is, yes.
So,
It could
but
mean monitoring. It could mean that you have to keep
Keep an eye on it.
track on that in case
Exactly.
it veers upward.
But, according to what Joe said, I mean, that's still drinkable between 5 and 10.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, we have to all remember the drinking water standard for nitrates is intended to protect infants and babies that have very, very low body weights compared to a normal adult. So it's really intended to protect the most vulnerable populations.
well, that's what the legal ramification is, but there are a lot of studies that implicate high nitrates to other
I'm well aware of
conditions.
it.
And it just hasn't gone through the EPA and gotten that level of
All right,
scrutiny.
I just have one follow-up.
More question?
For Joe about PFOS, PFOA, as I'm looking at the Westlake Water District Water Quality Report, lists range of 2 to 8 parts per trillion. I think you mentioned that once you get to about half of the current range, which is 10 parts, then you start getting concerned or perhaps consider treatment.
Correct.
So would that apply to the to Westlake?
2 parts per trillion it's non-detect, correct?
I know, but the range was
Minimum they
2
can-
to 7. Some samples were 2, some were 7,
Mhm.
and the standard is 10.
Yep.
So I think I heard Joe saying that once you get to half of the current range, which would be 5, then you start putting some treatment in there. Are there any plans for?
We start planning for treatment. Again, we want to look at it and make sure that the numbers are consistent, before we commit to putting treatment in, but we want to make sure that we definitely have something that's of significance and consistency. So,
And what
so I don't know how many samples were taken for that particular compound. Does it tell you there?
13. 13 samples.
13?
Yeah,
Right. So the range was from 2 to 7 and 13 samples, right?
yeah.
So, look, just so you know, we've already taken a look at the site and we've already kind of laid out where we might put a treatment system. We're already thinking about where we might bring a treatment system in. So it's on our radar, and again, we're not in violation of the drinking water standard.
Yeah.
But we do, obviously, it's something that we're watching and we're watching it closely.
And if the EPA keeps that standard at 5 or 4, then it's going to have to happen anyway, regardless, in 2
Absolutely,
years.
yeah. Listen, I can assure you that at no time will you consume water that exceeds the drinking water standard for any of those compounds. We will make sure of that.
Well, interestingly enough, I think, is it Massachusetts where the standard is 4 parts per trillion. So it's a state-regulated threshold. So, to think it's universal and that's the absolute threshold for health, that's really sort of misleading. So every state decides what that health threshold is going to be.
You are absolutely right. And what very often happens is one state looks at another state when they're making standards, because I've been involved with the discussions with our regulators and how they make standards. And very often looking at other states is one way of doing it. And California typically leads the way in drinking water standards. And a lot of states follow what California does.
Do you know what their threshold is? Their MCL?
I'm not sure what it is for perchlorinated compounds.
Okay.
Okay, last question. So if you were to put some treatment for PFOS, what would that be? What kind of technology?
Sure.
And would that be for every well or just this distribution point?
No, so what we would do is most likely we would put in granular activated carbon, and that would be put in over at the pump house.
Mhm.
And those are steel vessels, because these wells are relatively small capacity. They wouldn't be very large vessels. They would probably be a couple 1,000 pounds of carbon. And we would test the carbon on a regular basis to determine whether it's continuing to remove the contaminant. And once it is determined that the carbon has been exhausted, or the compound breaks through the carbon, then what we do is we change the carbon, we replace it.
Okay.
And we're currently
Is
doing
there a safe way of replacing, or what do you do? And we had this discussion before,
Mhm.
which is, what do you do with the carbon filters? Where do they go?
You mean the carbon or the carbon filters?
The carbon filters, there is what's ever holding the PFAS.
The
exhaust.
carbon, yeah, the carbon itself, right? So the carbon itself. So we have annual contracts with vendors that all they do is they come and they take out the old carbon from a filtration system and replace it with new carbon. And that's a regular occurrence here. During the summer, we do it 3 or 4 times a week on different filters throughout our system. We have 180, I think we're up to 186 carbon filters in our system right now. So what they do is they take away the spent carbon. That's what we call carbon that has been used up and has fully absorbed all of the PFAS that it can. So they take that away and they put that into a kiln, and they heat it at high temperatures, and they destroy the contaminants that are on the carbon. And then they sell the carbon as reactivated carbon to industry and to wastewater treatment plants. We only use virgin carbon in our filters. So carbon that has been freshly mined out of the ground and is suitable for water treatment.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Joe, for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Laurie?
I have a couple of questions based on some of the comments that were made. The existing wells right now we're using 5 and 6, because the new ones haven't been put in. Is that what I understood? Haven't been implemented yet, they're not running. Right?
Correct, Joe? Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So, as you know, the water quality reports are usually issued in the spring for the year before. So I wanted more current data, which I got from the county when the county came out and did their testing. And the county's test for the ones that they've sampled in 2024 show nitrates on our existing wells on 2 different, one report was 8.8 and the other one was 4.6. So obviously, the 8.8 is, 4.6 is bad enough, but the 8.8 is definitely concerning to me as someone that's drinking the water. And I know you guys are drinking it as well. So I am interested and curious to know is how we're going to treat these nitrates. I mean, hopefully we won't have those levels in the new wells, but if we do, we need to be prepared to do something, because I certainly don't want to be drinking nitrate levels at that level.
Lori, how many samples and during what time period did they take those readings?
There were two readings so far that the county has taken in 2024. And I actually said, like I said, these aren't Suffolk County Water Authority lab reports, these are the lab reports from the county itself. And it was February 21st, and the other one was April 11th. So they also had detections of PFOs and PFAs between 2 and 4, even the county lab reports.
Yeah.
So again, you know, as somebody who's drinking the water, even with the new well, if it's 6A is already showing half of what the current level, EPA level is, I'm concerned that we don't filter them out, and we don't wait for 2 years to do the filters. Because I certainly don't want to be drinking water, Joe, no disrespect, but drinking water that has PFOs and PFAs in it, you know, and waiting 2 years to put a filter on it if we need a filter. So I don't know how the other customers feel, but I certainly don't want to be drinking it.
I'd rather not drink it at all.
Well, that's my.
But I think that for a company, they have to stick with the mandated thresholds. And if it's below the mandated MCL, there's no
Well, there's no requirement for them to.
requirement for them
But
to
the town
filter.
also, they're the manager, the town is the owner. So
Mhm.
the town actually is liable for what's in that, what decisions are being made, whether it's by Suffolk County Water Authority or anyone else.
When you did your nitrate testing, Joe, when was that? Was that after April, during this same time period? I mean, are the numbers different for your numbers? And
They're probably different every month.
that's what I'm
They-
wondering.
they-
Always.
You know, groundwater water quality changes every time you take a sample. You'll never get the same thing twice. I'm just taking a look at the new wells. The nitrate levels on number 5A are 3.75. These are the new wells. And on 6, bear with me while I look.
What was that? What was that number?
3.75 for number 5A. And I'm looking at number 6. Hold on for a second. It's got a lot of test results here. The nitrates are 3.78 and 3.82. So they're both under 4 on the new wells. That's what the water quality is as of the construction of the wells and the testing of the wells. So I would regard those as pretty good numbers as far as nitrates go. When taken in, you know, in looking at all of the wells that we have and what the nitrate levels are in all of them, I feel that the nitrate numbers in our new wells at least are very good.
What are the nitrate levels in well number 4, the one that's in,
The existing one,
yeah,
I don't have the samples in front of me, Lori. The best to go by the annual water quality report, although that doesn't distinguish between well number 4 and 5. I mean, I can get that for you if you're interested. I just have to request it from my lab.
I tell you why, because, you know, several years ago, one of the questions that I had looked at was the existing old septic systems around well number 4.
Uh-huh.
And there was no data on any of that. And that's something I think may have an impact, at least on well number 4. And its nitrate levels. And if you're still gonna keep well number 4, I think that's something that should be looked at, and possibly
Sure.
is something that maybe those homeowners, you know, maybe want to encourage to, you know, put in an IA system to help improve that water quality in proximity to well number 4.
I think it depends too on watershed movement. You know, it's,
Yes.
we look at it and we see it's a downgrade gradient. But water doesn't necessarily always move down, you know, it moves out to the outlying areas. So I think looking at the watershed movement, at least the model, would be beneficial to, before we sort of pinpoint
Well, yeah,
specific.
totally agree. So I think it's something that needs to be looked at,
Yeah.
especially to be able to preserve and protect well number 4.
It's always been a difficult, I think you remember back in
Yeah.
the early 2000s, it was only used, ever since 5 and 6 went online, it was only used as a backup well.
Yep.
Just
Which we
because
might not
the
need
quality
because
is.
of the new 5A and 5.6.
Right.
6A are so much more
Right.
powerful.
I have another
Okay.
question.
It's kind of counterintuitive. A lot of people would say, gee, wells on a golf course, you know, you've got turf, they use fertilizer on the golf course, you're gonna see high nitrates. And that really doesn't seem to be the case over there. And if,
Oh.
in general, you know, I know there's always a lot of talk about golf courses and water quality, but we've not necessarily seen a lot of interference from golf course operations in our wells.
Septic, the nitrate.
I have another question for Joe. I don't know if it's Joe leaving or should I come back for that question? It's regarding.
Well, we have an
grant
agenda
money.
we want to go to. Is it, what's it?
Well, it's about the grant monies, but if Joe's gonna leave, I wanna ask it while Joe's still.
Well, can we take that at the end of his
As long as we can get it.
presentation? Yeah,
if he leaves.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Because I do want to, I want to go, Jan, I have to move ahead. Is this pertinent to this?
Yeah, just very quick question.
Very quick.
Super quick.
Super.
Yeah, well, we have Joe on the line. I mean, for people who are concerned about the elevated nitrates in their water, even though it still meets drinkable standard, would you say that those people can install like under the sink reverse osmosis filters to remove nitrates and get down to 1 or below? And that's not very expensive. Would that be a solution?
It does work. Yes, there's no question about it that under the sink reverse osmosis system is effective at doing that. But yeah, I always have to caution people that drinking RO water is not necessarily the healthiest thing in the world to do, because when you drink RO water, you're drinking water that has had everything removed from it. So all the good stuff that's in the water, the minerals and whatnot, that your body is used to used to consuming. Now you drink water that doesn't have those contaminants, and I'll call them contaminants, constituents in them. And now what happens is your body starts to, because of the struggle in the body to equalize things, what you do is you wind up losing these minerals that are in your body because you're drinking the RO water. So you have to be very careful with it.
Can I ask you, can anybody find confirmation and evidence of that, Joe? Just because it's an argument of what you're saying about how drinking
Oh, yeah, just
mineral-depleted
Google-
water.
Yeah, just Google drinking RO water. I think you'll see plenty of information on that.
Because it is thought to be a panacea, our RO systems.
It definitely removes nitrates. It does a great job at that. But like I said, you just have to understand what you're drinking now. You're drinking like very pure water at that point, and your body needs the minerals and the other things that are in water that you consume for life. So you just have to be careful with that. And again, this is everybody's personal preference on how you want to do it. So I would just urge you to just take a look at that before you buy a filter and consider it. That's all.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like, Joe Fenora, do you have anything you want to question, add? No? I do want to go on to Temetra Access. For those of you who aren't familiar with the system, Temetra is a remote read program that homeowners can look at and see real live, at least daily, consumption. And it's very useful. I have had difficulty with it. I wanted to see if anybody else has had difficulty getting that access. And if you have heard, or if you know how many customers on the system are utilizing that. So, Wendy.
Well, I was going to see if I had my phone to check it, but I don't. I was able to sign in. I think SQA helped me. They sent me a code and I was able to sign in. I looked at it once. I will confess I haven't gone back to look at it,
Okay.
but I was able to get access and I think I have it saved on my computer so that I could go back.
Yeah, we went through it once and then now we can't do it again.
See, maybe
So we
I
have
should
to
try
go-
it again.
How about you, Bob?
I don't know about it.
No, I haven't tried. Okay, Lori, have you?
Yeah, I couldn't get on. It wouldn't let me. It kicked me out.
At all?
It said, it said that I didn't have permission for access.
You do need a special code from SQA to sign in.
Couldn't get it. And I emailed SWAT and never got a response.
So how can we streamline this, Joe? because it's really useful. And I was so excited.
Lori, who did Lori email that you didn't get a response? Did you use the info at SCWA?
Yes,
Yes.
the same email address that the information came in on.
I don't think that's yeah, I don't think that that's what you were supposed to respond to. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so. There's an info on our website. It's called info@scwa.com. So anytime you have a problem with something and you want to just shoot us an email, you can use that. And we'll
I mean, we
respond.
got on.
I see
So-
that almost a daily basis when
It's a
someone
whole
has a
separate
question.
site, right?
It's a whole separate site, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I
You
can
know-
get back on it.
I wish I could be more help with the Temetra system. I mean, from what I understand, we've gotten some very good feedback from customers that have used it. If you're having particular problems with it, I can have your account looked at to see why you're not able to log in. I will tell you though that the benefit, in my perspective, the real benefit to the Temetra system for you folks and for anybody that's using the system, our Fire Island is using it now. Daring Harbor is on it. We're doing it out of Montauk and on the East End now. The real benefit is that when we look at the system and we do that like on a daily basis, we can see where people have leaks.
Yeah.
And we're
Yep.
notifying people that they have leaks now the day after the leak is detected, as opposed to 3 months after the leak is detected. And in your case, if you waited 3 months and had a leak all that time, that's a lot of wasted water, and that becomes a huge bill.
Yep.
So I think I was talking to Mike McMahon, who is really working this new system, and he said that initially when it went into service, we identified 3 or 4 accounts out there in West Neck that had leaks, and we got them resolved as a result of this. And it's been very quiet over the summer, although I think he said he had one on Stearns Point Road last week or the week before, but he contacted the customer to let them know. So that really, to me, is the real benefit here, especially for you folks that have these special rates that are very, very high. And
It's
they need to be
very
dealt with.
beneficial for us to be able to look at our consumption.
And that's great for you to look at your consumption, but I think what you're saying though is a number of you folks, you logged on, you looked at it, and then
Yeah, and then
you
lost
do it
it.
again. Yeah,
Is there a tutorial for this? Is there somewhere we can go?
yeah.
Is there anything?
I don't think so, Lisa, but I can check and see if there's something that's out there.
It'd be great if we could email all of the people on West Neck with just a kind of the set of instructions again
Exactly.
and how to get the
Uh-huh.
code again, just so that in case they missed that first email.
I can arrange to have another email sent out inviting people to sign on to the system again. And
That'd be
I can
good.
take a look and see if maybe there's a video of some kind that Temetra has. This is what they call a hosted system. We just contract with Temetra to put this up here to make it available for our customers. It's not an SCWA site. It's unfortunate that that's the way it's done, but that's just the way the technology has rolled out. The company that makes this wants to retain control over it because it helps them retain their market share. I suspect that as time goes on, like everything, the data will become more open and we'll be able to host it on our site directly. But right now, this is the way it's being rolled out. But we'll send out another email to everybody to let
Okay.
them know about the system and encourage them to sign on.
I think if we can do it,
Uh-huh.
we can help others do
I
it.
agree. Yep.
But if we can't do it,
Yep.
then
Yeah, well, if you can do it.
we are reasonably intelligent people, so yeah. Thank you. Joe. I look forward to getting that
Yeah.
email.
It should be easy to do. I mean, I should try it myself. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I have not,
Try it.
but I will try it. I'll go and take a look at it and see what it's like, and I'll let you know. But I'll
Thank
have another email sent out to all the customers.
Okay.
Okay.
I know Lori wants to bring something up, but before we go there, I'm just going to ask you, what are the next steps now? You're going to do all of the testing for the 2 wells, and hopefully they'll be online in November. Is there anything else where are we heading?
Well, I mean, this is officially the end of all of the capital improvements that we were going to make as part of our operating agreement with you folks. So I think that's the good news. We still have that $500,000 grant with DASNY that we will
Yes,
be submitting for reimbursement for. And once we get that money, we're going to recalculate your surcharge. So
Hmm.
that's going to be going down. So hopefully your 130,000 or whatever that you said you have in the bank is going to last you even longer.
Right.
But that's kind of where we're heading. Now, I guess the next question is, with once those wells go online and the capacity has improved in the system, there are a number of people that have come to us and to you requesting access to the water system. So
correct.
that's something, that's a discussion that we can have, and we'll talk with you about that and how you want to handle that. I mean, we vowed to work cooperatively with the town as far as connecting additional people to the system, and we will do that. So I think that conversation is coming up soon.
Just laying out a scenario, if the main goes to a customer that wants to get on, for example, then they're responsible for the service line from the main into the house. SWA takes care of the meter, correct?
Right, so we'll charge them a tapping fee. It's currently $4,100 for a 1-inch service.
Okay,
So we'll tap the main, we'll restore the road, we'll put a vault at the curb for $4,100. Their plumber will then come and connect up to the meter and run the service line into the house at the homeowner's cost.
so if there's a home that is not adjacent to the water main, if the water main has to be extended, then what?
So then the water main would be extended in accordance with our rules and regulations. And it's basically the cost of the water main extension divided by the number of homeowners that want to be connected. And this is done at a cost. We estimate, we use something called our standard cost, which is like our average cost. We average throughout our entire construction service territory to come up with a basic, so that nobody's paying too high or too low a cost. We charge average cost for the construction, and we give everybody 75 feet of free water main as part of that extension.
So if, say, we were to add on 5 homes and the water main service had to be extended, I don't know, 200 feet, for example, the expense of that water main would then be distributed throughout the district or just
No, just to the people that
those 5 people?
correct.
Just-
So they're paying
So
the
they
capital
would-
cost. The people that are benefiting are paying the capital cost to extend the system to their homes.
So that would be a different rate structure. That would be a different
No,
pay structure.
no, they would, so let's think about that. So the rates,
not paying
your water rates are set, right? The water rates for West Neck Water are set. Those folks are gonna pay for the extension. The capital cost of the extension will be divided up amongst those folks. And the way I see it, they would pay the same rate that you folks pay. They would pay the West Neck Water rate.
Moving forward,
Yeah,
yeah.
And that would be their way of contributing to the initial construction of the system or the improvements that were made.
I think that this, I think we got to talk about the financial,
Yeah, we'll have to sit down
Scenario.
once we get the DASNY grant.
but
I
we're
mean-
not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but we definitely need to sit, we definitely need to sit and discuss how that's gonna be done. I mean, to me, that's the fair way to do it. Charge them the same consumption rate that everybody else is paying. But what that's gonna do is that's gonna raise more money to pay down the surcharge, which means that the West Neck Water contribution to the surcharge on an annual basis is going to go down as more customers, if more customers are added to the system. You follow me?
Yeah, I'd have to see it on paper.
Yeah, because remember, the water authority, we just want to be compensated at our rates,
Yeah.
which are significantly lower than your rates. The difference goes to pay the surcharge.
That's
So if you get
correct.
3 or 4 new customers, there's going to be that much more difference available to go into the pot to pay off the surcharge and reduce the amount that the district is liable for, or the town is liable for.
Okay, that's a conversation for not that far into the future, because we do have people that really want to
Yes,
get on
you're
board
You're right.
as soon as possible.
Lisa, do we have a sense of how many people are interested in joining the system?
I know two are right now, and there's
I
been
think I'm aware of 2 or 3. Yeah, that's it.
others.
There's a handful of legacy applications that are within the footprint of the district already. So those are folks that we put on pause, waiting to see how much capacity came online, but those customers would not require main extensions. So there's no discussion to be
And
had
how many of
on
those-
capital costs.
Those folks do we have?
Just less than a handful, but like we said, maybe 2 to 4 maximum.
And those are legacy people already with access to the system?
No,
No, they just live within the footprint of the
they've
district. So
requested it for a long
So
time.
the main already goes past their house,
But they haven't
but they don't
connected.
have service. And they had requested to be in the system, to join the system before the operating agreement with Suffolk Water was executed. And so we paused any new customer considerations until after these production.
And then there are a few folks who would need additional mains to join.
I don't think we have any formal applications for that.
That's what we have to really structure, I think, financially
Yeah, I
and,
think that's where it gets a little,
Sure. But right
Yes.
now, the only potential customers are people who already have a main running by their
That's right.
property.
So they would only have the 4,100 plus whatever it costs to run from their house to the
service
street.
line.
They wouldn't have the extended main.
And those accounts would be very much beneficial to the rest of the customer base because there'd be no extra cost to add them, but they would immediately be contributing to
Right.
the, existing.
Income revenue.
And those are residential, none of them are
They're
restaurants.
residential, yeah.
I think we're maxed out as far as businesses go right now. Okay, one more thing, and then I know Lori has her hand up, and that is, we pumped close to 1 million gallons in August, 975,500 gallons. That was, I believe it was our biggest month. I don't have the info for July. So have you seen an increase in, I mean, I should really go back and look at my own records, but because of Leon, our new restaurant, have you seen a substantial increase in pumpage this year?
you know what, Lori, Lisa, I'd have to take a closer look at the numbers. I've been keeping a track of them. I have them updated. I don't think that I could specifically point out that the restaurant is responsible for some extra demand. I have it all plotted out for the past 4 or 5 years, and it does vary. I think that one of the things that we're seeing is the absence of leaks now in the system is resulted in less pumpage. So I don't think that this year was a particularly big year.
Mhm.
August is always, July, August are your 1 million gallon a month kind of months. But I can't necessarily tell you that. I think that Leon is responsible for it. It's not. It's the weather and it's water consumption in general during the hot weather.
All right, but is your grant money question answered?
No, I have other questions.
All right, okay. How many? Just so it's 415?
So Joe, you have not received the 500,000 grant yet?
No, we have not.
Okay. Okay, so that was part of that question. You can't answer the second part. In the May meeting, I went back and looked at the May meeting notes. And it said in this meeting, actually it was said in August, which we didn't have a meeting in August. We would be discussing this financial setup.
That's my next question.
So, now we're not discussing it today, and so I guess it gets pushed back to the next meeting. Yes?
What are you talking about?
The financials in terms of what happens with the rates once the grant is received and how that gets restructured and how that gets used.
I guess we have to wait until they receive the grant before we can really discuss that.
Yeah, I think
okay.
that would be fair, right?
Well, I think you should have some sort of idea of where you, what you want to do and where you're going with it, you know what the amount is. So, anyway, you want to wait and discuss it and start it then, I'm just not sure that you're going to resolve it in one meeting. You could be discussing it now, I guess that's my point.
Well, we already know that it's going to reduce the infrastructure rate down to 1.2 million. So I'm not sure what else are you suggesting that is going to be changed?
I don't know, that's why I'm.
I don't think anything's going to be changed financially. It just means that we're going to
The rates aren't going to be reduced then for the customers?
be, no, I don't think so. I don't think we agreed to that. I think we,
No, you said you were going to discuss it. That's where you left off in May.
okay. As far as I recall, we had more or less decided to keep the rates the same, but it would just be that the duration time would be less. And then we pull from the class account.
And then, I mean, I disagree with Joe Picorni. I mean, if we have new customers coming out of the system, I mean, some of us have paid for not only this 1.2, right, minus the grant, but have invested in this system 100%, including the land, since 25 years or more. So how is it fair for the new customers to pay the same as the existing customers? That's what I would ask you to consider. And the other thing I would ask is your current DEC report permit for wells 5A and 6A says that can only be used for the existing customers unless you go back and get an amendment to the DEC permit. When you say footprint, Joe, it's the footprint is serving the existing customers, unless it's a vacant land within that footprint. So the DEC sees that as existing customers versus not just a main passing by. So, I mean, I've spoken to the DEC and they're saying that you need approval to add new customers to the system. And then there's the issue of, to the steps and the legal process and the formal process of going through, how you get the referendum to expand the system, because that's considered an
We
expansion.
just have Joe address the first set of questions, because they're interesting ones.
I defer some of the technicalities to Joe Picorni, but one thing we're working with here is that our district footprint is for our district, but outside of our district is Suffolk County Water Authority's district. So how that might play out, Joe, maybe you've had that experience in the past when operating an existing district and potentially adding a new customer. How have you managed that?
Well, typically when we add a new customer and it's outside an existing district, like you said, that the way the law is written is anything that's not in an existing district is the Water Authority service territory. So once you get out into the Water Authority service territory, we're not bound by these district boundaries that you have where, like if you were going to do an extension, you would have to extend the size of the district. We don't have to do that in the normal service territory of the Water Authority. So this does go back to the rates that get charged, the discussion we were having before. And I think that does merit some conversation on our part on how we're going to handle that. Because if we do extend the water main outside the district, the question is going to be, do we want to expand the district? Or do we want to call that Suffolk County Water Authority district?
Right.
And this is just an arm that comes off of it. Now, in sense of fairness, if these people are being served, they're outside the district, are they going to claim or are we going to claim that they don't have to participate in paying the surcharge? That doesn't sound fair to me. So I think that we have some discussions to make, you know what I mean?
Well,
What rates do they pay? If they're in the Suffolk County Water Authority area, do they just pay the Suffolk County Water Authority rate? Well, the water is coming from the West Neck Water District, and you folks pay to build that system. So I don't know.
Which is why, Joe, the DEC says that the existing wells cannot be used for any customers outside of what you have now. So
Does it say West Neck, outside of West Neck? Is that the language that they use, or
you have to look at the permit. It's very specific.
it says outside of West Neck Water District?
It's for the existing customers and cannot be used outside of those existing customers. at this time without DEC approval. And don't forget, Joe is only the manager. Suffolk County Water is only the manager for West Neck Water District. So, that nuance is very important because the town still owns it. So the town is still required to go through the various steps because it's still owned by the town of West Neck Water District.
Joe, did you want to say?
Yeah, just that the DEC does not have an interest in restricting who is or isn't in
No,
a
they're not.
specific boundary. Their tracking of the boundary is to know which parcels are being served by that water system and which parcels are served by private wells. So, it's subject to amendment if you want to add more parcels. They're amenable to that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making sure that the records are consistent, that language is in there so that you don't go and expand the system to new parcels without having notified them. It's not to say that they're looking to decline, but they do have to be notified of changes to the service
They have to
area.
approve it. It's not a notification. It's not saying that they won't approve it.
Right.
It's just that you have to go through those steps.
Okay, I think-
DEC for an approval first.
Right. I think you've made the point, and I
Yeah.
think that this conversation, it rests with Suffolk County Water Authority. Really, we have to discuss how we're going to do an expansion if in fact it comes to that.
So
So,
we have committed to working with the town on any of these expansion issues. We continue to do that. We will do that. This is all going to be done in a way that's consistent with what the town wants.
and if there's any kind of fine or violation from the DEC, that goes through Suffolk County
Yeah.
Water Authority,
Yeah.
not the town.
Right, yeah. Good. And then, my only other concern is, making sure that the people that want to connect understand the level of nitrates and the contamination of the PFOs and PFAs.
They'll
Sure, they don't
have,
want to drink it either.
You wonder what they're having now.
exactly,
Yeah, what are they
if
drinking
they don't
now?
have water now.
Well, you don't know.
Very
But,
good point.
The annual water report is open to the public. That's public information, so.
Yes, it's for the year, it's for the year before. So
That's
that
correct.
lag time, changes significantly, which is why you really need to have current data because, otherwise you're asking somebody, well, it's too late because you've already drank it for a year and a half before you get the water quality.
That's why we advise people to test their wells, to find out exactly what they have in their wells, and then make that
You're
decision.
saying that we should, as West Neck water customers, should test our
No,
water?
I'm saying that if
No, no.
another resident wants to come on to,
Just remember, the report comes out once a year, but my operations people in the laboratory are looking at the water continuously.
all the time.
We're not waiting for the annual water quality to make some decision about what we're gonna do. We
I
are
understand that,
aware
but
of the
the
current water quality.
Okay, is that public information, Joe? If somebody wanted to look at the latest testing results, is that, can I access that?
If you would like me to send you the latest testing results, I'll run you a report of all the tests that we've done on the wells and send that to you.
Yeah, I think that
It's
what's
not
being
like
asked,
it's not like public information, but it's foilable information. So if you send me an email, said to me, Joe, send me all the water quality report for well 5 and 6 give me a period, I'll send you every test that we did on it.
And anyone adding a line is going to have to pay probably close to $6,000. So it would behoove them to make sure that it's worth their while in case their own well is working just fine. They may not need to be part of it.
And then this is a town issue, but on the town website, and this is just, I think, confuses some people. I obviously know what I'm looking at, so I don't have that issue. But on the town website, it has the link to the Suffolk County Water Authority water quality report, which is really helpful, so thank you for doing that. However, before you hit the link, it says it's for 2022 for the 2023 for the 2022 water quality report. But when you actually go in and click the link and it leads you to Suffolk County Water Authority, it's actually the 2023, which is the 2024.
Somebody has to
report.
update the website.
So the website does not match that, and I think it's confusing people in terms of
That's good for them to
what
know.
the date is of the
Right.
lab reports that we're actually looking at.
all right, so we can correct the website.
Yeah, that's an easy
Right,
website
great. Thank you.
update.
Thanks.
Thanks for catching that.
Are there any questions from anybody in the Zoom audience for Joe before we move on? No? Anybody?
Just when they're gonna have this year's billing
That's right. So
for the surcharge.
do you want to ask? Because we also
Joe,
want,
can you hear me? It's Amber Brock Williams. I was just curious when you were going to have the annual billing on the surcharge ready for us. It seemed like we got it around this time last year.
Did you say, do you want to know when the next bill is coming for the surcharge, Amber?
Yes, please.
it was year-end May, and we've been waiting for it.
I will check on that on Monday and find out where it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because, Joe, with that billing comes their consumption. And that's really helpful for us to look at, that data.
Yes,
how it
we give you, yeah, we give you a list of everybody's consumption when we send you the bill.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's very helpful.
sure.
Okay. Was that it, Amber?
I appreciated all the update about the wells. Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure. And I apologize for changing the date on you on the meeting here, and I really appreciate you rescheduling it.
Well, you're the show here, Joe. You're the main speaker, so
Please.
without you, we really can't go over this very well. All right, well, thank you very much, and I don't remember when our next meeting is. Does anybody?
December 6th.
You, December 6th.
what's
We'll
here.
see you then. Yeah. Everybody write that down on your calendar, Lisa?
Wendy.
Me, no, I'm not, I'm talking to myself.
Oh, I'm talking, well, Wendy needs to
Because-
put it on her calendar too.
Yeah, Wendy. All right, thank you.
Oh, dear.
Okay, folks. It was good
Take care.
seeing you all. All right, and I promise you I will go into Temetra, take a look, and we'll get an email out to everybody. And
I'm gonna check my groundwater and see if I can get to the
Right.
bottom of it.
So Temetra and surcharge, Bill.
Okay,
Okay, great.
all right.
Hey,
Thank you,
December
everybody. Have a nice weekend.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
As far as, does anybody have anything regarding old business? Something on the minutes? Do you want to do the minutes now? Probably we should.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do the minutes. I can give you a couple minutes to look through them if you haven't yet.
We typically have these meetings around this time.
Yes. 3 o'clock is generally our meeting time, as long as the, yes.
That would be available on Zoom. Good. There it is.
I have a question about minutes. I
No questions? No?
make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second the motion.
Aye.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, okay. Great. The only new business really that I had was, we had talked about sending out a customer survey a while ago, and we had never moved on it. So this is just a survey form. And I thought if we could just take a couple minutes and think about how do we want to structure this? This is separate. This is what the board would do, not through SQUA, but ourselves. Just asking for customer satisfaction. What are some of the questions? And it could be discoloration. It could be pressure. So I give you this in Latin so that because we can make our own questions.
So we can have short, just like 5 to 7 questions tops, because people give up when it's a multi-page survey. But also see, have you contacted SQUA for any reason? Are you satisfied with the result? You know, things like that would be helpful too.
Sure. And do we like there's only 3, yes, maybe, no? Do we want to do a numerical system? Are you satisfied 1 through 5? Do we want to do a 5, yes, maybe somewhat?
Not applicable is always good to have in there. in
And
case people don't
NA?
want it.
So this isn't something we have to decide, but I really would like you to look it over, and maybe in December's meeting, we could come together with some kind of structure, so that for the new year, we could think about sending something out. That's a good idea. Okay? There you go. And I have nothing else, and we are an hour and a half in. So if there's nothing else from the audience or Zoom, I'd like to conclude this meeting, or Amber, unless you have something you want to ask. Joe? I think we're in a pretty healthy spot. I look forward to getting the new wells online, even though right now, pressure's good. Quality's, for some of us, is very good.
Color is iffy.
Color,
Color is iffy.
color. Yeah, iffy for you. All right, I'd like to make a move to adjourn.
Second,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
thank you.